Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Alright guys, welcome to War Room, and as per usual, it wouldn't be War Room if we weren't missing somebody or if there wasn't some sort of problem. So Mecha Kaiju's running a little bit late, so we decided to start without him. So point of the show tonight is we're going to be talking about units and how units function, what their purpose is, what to look for in a good unit, and how to maintain and run a good unit. I'd like to start out by just giving a quick shout out to all the leagues that are going on. We've got Proxys, Last Mech Standing, Run Hot or Die, Merrick Civil War, Inner Sphere Wars, and then we've got Corporate Warfare, which is just starting up. All of these are just super awesome leagues. They're all doing really good. We just had a turn meeting for Merrick Civil War. Proxys just started up on the 20th. It's all going pretty well. Well, at least we hope it is. So let's go around. Let's introduce our guests. We've got some recurring guests this week. So Xander, I spelled your name right this time. Why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Xander Gray from Blackstone Knights. I'm the XO there.
Versinix, 228th, second in command, and NGNG TV streamer, I guess. I'll throw that into my resume.
I should have waited like 30 more seconds. Damn it, Kaiju just got here. Alright, Siri, take it away.
Serial Thrax from Steel Jaguar Gaming, Light Pilot, and Drop Commander.
Alright, Homeless Bill, the only one without a webcam this week.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm Homeless Bill from QQ Rage Quit.
And last but not least, Mecha Kaiju, who managed to show up just in time without missing anything. Give us an introduction.
I just made it back from work. Aces, Mecha Kaiju, do drop leads for lights and general recruiting and whatnots.
Alright, killer. Well, let's get it started. So, Versi, you wrote 2 articles now. The most recent one was just posted today about entering the competitive scene and units and what to look for in a unit. Give us a little bit about that. Why did you want to write these articles?
Okay, so I feel that, especially now with MWO being so stagnant, we're still waiting for community warfare. A lot of the leagues are coming to an end. A lot of our normal leagues, Proxys just started up, which is fantastic, but, Run Hard or Die is slowly coming to an end. Merrick season, Civil War is coming to an end. Last Mech Standing's coming to an end. And so now there's kind of this stagnant point in MWO, and there's nothing to jumpstart the community. We had the whole, new mechs in the Phoenix package, so a lot of players, we're all leveling those mechs, getting our masteries and whatnot. But it's kind of a time to start anew. And a lot of units have, been dropping out of competitions. A lot of units have been, splitting, having troubles. We've been seeing and hearing a whole lot about that, and it's always been something that's happened in MWO. And I felt that to a point, why not teach units and players what they need to be looking for in a unit? You need, what a unit should be building. A lot of units, they don't establish proper communication with their players. They don't establish a good structure in their unit, and then they wonder why all of a sudden they collapsed or why they can't retain members in their unit. Well, here's why. I wrote an article on it. And it's advice for units, it's advice for players looking for units, it's advice for the units that are already in full swing. Most of the guys here, we have really good flowing units. A lot of us had really big recruiting. I know BSK recently picked up some star players to their team, and I think that it's good for the community to see units like us, the recognizable long standers Most of the units joining us today, besides 228, I think are actually longer standing than 228. But 228's a really fast-growing power in the community, and I think that it's our duty as members of this community to help out.
And so, did you write this more for people looking to get into a game, or looking to get into a unit, or for unit leaders? And I'm going to take this time to also say, guys that aren't Versi, feel free to ask him questions, because, like, obviously, I don't want to just have you guys sit here while he talks.
I think coming from being second in command of my unit, it was more directed towards leadership and the leaders, because I really think that that's where, in the end, it all falls down to what makes a good unit. Personally, I wrote the articles trying to stay very equal on all my topics, but personally, I really think that it's dependent on the leadership, and so I think that's where it pointed. But a player looking to join the competitive scene and looking to join a competitive unit, there's a lot of really good information and valuable information for someone to pull from to look for that unit that's really going to fit them and be something that they're going to be proud to be a part of.
So you talk about the differences between like casual gamers, semi-competitive, and competitive gamers. And since this is about the competitive scene, what would you say one of the best things to look for in a unit at first glance is for a competitive gamer?
If I was going to say that you're looking for one sole thing, I actually bring it up in my second article. I talk about it, and I talk about it with leadership, is passion from the leadership. And you want to see that in your players, you want to see that in your leadership. This game has a lot to offer, even though there's still more to come for it. And there's lots of really passionate people in this community. You have Magician doing constant stuff with the competitive elo bracket and Run Hot or Die. You have Antonius Rex. All these these people doing these competitions to basically show the great things that the community can do, to show the competitive nature. And when you can find units like that everyone in the unit is happy and they're involved and they're doing stuff and they're looking to do more, that's the kind of place you want to be, because they're always looking to the future. They're always looking to be bigger, better, stronger, and I recommend that.
So Siri, I know that you are currently glancing over the article, but you guys have been around for quite a long time and have stayed massively competitive throughout that time. What's one thing you guys have focused on in terms of making sure your unit stays both competitive and populated?
I think the biggest thing is that from the get-go, we know sort of the dedication that has to be put in for our team. We're very small, only 15 to 20 members for each of our NA and EU divisions. So the expectations that we have of our members are clearly laid out when people are applying to the unit, and if people don't make it, they're still free to hang around, and we help them, we point them towards units that may be more of their style, but everybody who's made it onto the team is very dedicated.
And so do you find that searching for, and this is, I guess, for everyone, that searching for individual skill is better to find in players, or an attitude that you enjoy, in a fellow player?
I would say attitude goes a long, long way. There are a lot of skilled players out there, but people have different attitudes, and every single corp has a different sort of culture, and finding that fit can be fairly difficult, but when you do, it just tends to work out perfect.
And so, Versi, you talk a lot about population and keeping the right size for your unit. Obviously, Steeljag is one of those units that has a much smaller number. I know 228 is quite large. Where do you draw that line in size between having a large unit and having a small unit, in where you want to be with competitive play versus casual play?
Well, I actually talk about that in the first article with player base, and not just player base, but then the population. And I mean population in the the game itself, and then population in the unit, and how they kind of they coincide. If you have a very competitive unit, I'll throw Steeljag into this mix, and Siri, interrupt me if I'm wrong, since you know your unit better than me. But they have a very core team. It's 15, 20 players. I think when I went and I looked up Steeljag online to make sure that I wasn't talking out of my ass in the article, I saw like around 20. And the majority of them, most of them, I'd probably throw into a very competitive gamer category. And basically the way I worked it is that as you go up the ladder of gamers, you start with casual, then you get to semi-competitive, then you get to competitive, the less players are needed, and the less players are actually should be in the unit, because the highly competitive players are highly competitive. If they're not being fielded, if they're not entering these competitions, they want to be. They strive to be. They're involved beyond all belief, and they're going to go somewhere where they can be. And if they're not going to stick around. So fielding those kind of players in a smaller unit, it tends to be more sound. SWK is also a very small unit. Steeljag is a smaller unit, but all of their players are highly competitive gamers, and so they don't need 70 people like 228. We cater to a semi-competitive market, and so you can have a larger number.
Xander, you're sitting there with your usual stone-faced glare, which always makes you look angry. I don't actually know off the top of my head how big BSK is, but I always seem to run into you guys in the queue. What do you guys find is, I'm addressing this to Xander, but all of you feel free to pitch in. What do you find is the right balance between scheduled practices and just random, 4-mans or random 12-mans?
Well, I think first off, I'm going to dispel the myth. I'm not angry Xander. Okay, I'm not always this stern.
It's just a very stern look. You always just look very focused. I like it. It's good.
Focused, yeah. So to answer your question, I think to all the points that are being made here, it really depends on the philosophy of your unit. And I think for Blackstone Knights, that's shifting a little bit. We definitely, I think, would have been considered semi-competitive. We have between 25 and 40 people on our roster. Some of those have been identified as competitive-ready pilots. Some of those are pilots that joined us recently and would like to get to that level. So we have a sort of a flat ranking structure, but we do have that, and I'm sure we can talk about that later. But it really talks about your philosophy. Right now, we have 4 practice nights a week, multiple hours, each of those nights. And to be perfectly honest, we've got people on 7 days a week, almost 24 hours a day, because we have a North America and an EU unit. So, in addition to the formal practices, we've got commitment from a lot of guys to just be on every night, spending dozens of hours a week playing the game.
Bill and Mecha Kaiju, I feel bad. You guys are sitting down there quietly. How do you guys handle practices and stuff like that?
For us, for QQ, it's been a pretty big evolution. We actually went through a pretty hard phase, January and February. We sort of had an exodus. A lot of people left for J Wolf because we're not moving fast enough on the competitive side of things. And so that kind of got us geared into we really need to start practicing, doing real things, doing leagues, and making sure that all of our pilots are competent and they actually start showing up for practices. And we're definitely not ultra competitive at all, clearly. We are definitely semi-competitive. We've got enough to field 2 teams at any given time with a bunch of alts. And so that's nice. But I think the most important part of that article that you wrote really is the separation of the player bases, because the competitive people really want to be in there for every match, and they don't want anyone that they can't trust. Whereas semi-competitive people, it's there's a lot of talk, we really want to be the best, we really want to do well, but at the end of the day, most people just do not have the commitment to get it done. They will not show up to every one of those practices, they will not put in the hours to do it. And so, you definitely have to figure out what you want your unit to be and really sort of tailor it to that. we did a sort of qualification system for a long time with our comp people, where we would just make sure that they're up to snuff before they got on the competitive team, and then it's just a matter of being at practices. We don't really have anything else that we do for that.
I think if I could say,
no, go
I'm
keep
sorry.
going.
I think if I could say one thing about that too is Blackstone Knights is in flux a little bit in that I agree that taking yourself from that semi-competitive level to a truly competitive level team requires that commitment. It's more than a lot of semi-competitive players may have the desire and say, yeah, wouldn't it be great if we were in that top, but they don't have necessarily the dedication. It's about getting your philosophy defined through your leadership, making sure the pilots all buy into the same philosophy, willing to make that same dedication. And then sometimes, as far as the competitive side, it involves making tough choices about which pilots belong in the unit, which pilots don't. And so there's a delicate balance there when you want to move yourself between these sort of very different philosophies. And I think Versinix has done a good job laying out the casual gamers, semi-competitive, competitive. There really are boundaries there that crossing over. There's a whole different philosophy and an implementation. You have to be intentional about how you do things when you're trying to get further to the competitive side of play.
What are your thoughts on this, Kaiju?
For us personally, the Merrick League really helped, pushing people to get practices, because without any of these third-party initiatives, there's no real goal for all those competitive players, and it's because of the competitive players making those third-party things that keeps the community pretty much happy. Because if you don't have that, your competitive player is just going to sit there and go, oh, what do? We can play 12 mans all day long, but if you don't actually have, a tier or a league or a tournament, you have nothing for your competitive players to strive for. For us, the practices are great because, with the merit campaign, each turn is a different limitation, each thing, so we don't have to focus on, okay, what's the current meta? We can focus on breaking different little molds and just seeing like, okay, if this is that, if X is limited, we go to Y, and it's really helped out our team. And we've had a couple outfluxes, and that's fine. It's every team's gonna have it. Every core's gonna have it through time. That's just how any hobby or group works. And having a large group of semi-competitive players really helps out because you can kind of rotate them. Eventually competitive players are going to get burnt out. We have a bunch of people who are just still waiting for community warfare, first and foremost.
So I have a thing for aces and for mecha, because
Yeah, go right ahead.
228 and mecha go back, 228 and aces go back a decent bit of the way. The recent stuff that you guys have gone through was because some of your players thought that you guys weren't competitive enough. And in the Merrick campaign, you guys have been doing fantastic. And even this, we just came off of turn 4 of Merrick, and Aces really stepped to the plate and said, you know what, we want to fight more matches this round. Give us some more matches, and actually took more matches than 228 in this. Is that not competitive enough thing giving a fire to you guys, or is this just a new face that we're seeing from Aces?
Well, the first league was just kind of like, it threw everyone off guard. How do we do this? How do we approach this? The first Merit campaign, that's how I kind of got put into the position I was in, because of me and another guy. And, the founders and NG, they can't really run it. They have so many responsibilities. So, it came down to this, and getting competitive players happy with a third-party, game, it came down to me and a couple other guys. To bring up the fact of the we're not competitive enough thing that happened, we also had a group of people that left because of the reverse aspect. Because we were like, if this is a real actual problem in our group, with a majority of players to keep them happy, let's start focusing on make sure everyone has a Jenner. Like, if you don't have a Jenner, you can't play because we're going to put them in our drop decks constantly. And then we had an outflux of people that were just like, oh, now you're too competitive. And we were just like, oh, what do we do? I think the reason we've done so well is because of the people that have stayed and just decided, hey, let's just do it. Currently I feel like a reason a lot of Merc cores go down is the idea of greener pasture, when there's really nothing to gain. I mean, if there's people that you really want to play with, or there's skill sets you really want to learn, that's great, that's awesome. But the game has been so ever-changing in the last 8 months to where it's just like, will that hold on? Will that mentality stay? Will that core stay? And I'm not talking about any cores in specifics, but I feel like that's why a lot of groups have fallen apart in the last, say, year and a half, is just the idea of greener pasture. And we just kind of said, we're just like, stick it out. We'll do Merit Campaign 2.0, keep our competitive people happy, keep people actually showing up to practices because it gives them actually something to achieve and work for, instead of just going, oh, what's the next new mech? And it's definitely just pushed us, into a near, I guess, perfect whatever for the campaign.
Yeah. Have you guys lost a match?
No.
Awesome. Glad to have you on my team.
So a good question that goes along with that, Siri, you guys mentioned that you guys are a small unit. How have you guys handled burnout? I know Kaiji brought that up earlier. I have personally dealt with burnout, just straight up playing too much, too often, trying too hard. With such a small unit, do you guys run into problems with that?
We've had a couple people who've had to take breaks along the way, or just got disillusioned with the game and had to focus on real life and may or may not have come back yet. I can't really give much of an opinion on what was going on in their head, but even just for me, throughout that whole summer of PPCs being completely overpowered, which isn't over, really, but I had to slow down my gameplay and just focus on showing up for the 12-man practices, which we're having every night, or not every night, but 5 nights a week, 2 hours each. I was finding that my drive and my determination to actually just get into the game and play 4s wasn't there, but because I had this group of people that I really enjoyed being around and loved playing 12s with them, that kept me coming back until the state of the game improved a little. So when the game itself isn't necessarily what you need at that moment, those people can be there for you.
I think another point to make with that is that sometimes it's good to find other games that you can play. I know that we've got our Star Citizen unit pretty, heavy. A lot of people are involved in that, but just other games like Warframe or Terraria or whatever, it helps to just get in TeamSpeak and just play something else for a while.
Definitely agreed on that one. We would play, our guys would just get together on weekends or off practice times and play, I think it was War Thunder, a bit of Warframe, other games like that, and that just kept their cohesion up.
So do you guys think that, my problem with burnout was the same over the summer. I got tired of jump sniping, so I just took a little time off, and I came back, and I've been playing with a vengeance since then. But do you think that burnout can affect units, or is it generally just players?
Oh no, burnout can definitely affect units. In some aspects, some units are more affected than others. If you have burnout, say, let's say, I'm going to make a worst case scenario for Steeljag. You had Jaeger, Magician, and Siri all burn out within a 3-week period. Could you imagine how much that would affect their unit structure, their cohesion, their competitive gameplay, just everything from players not being around, or only showing up for the competition and not, some practices or warm-ups and stuff? That absolutely can affect a unit. I joke, with, my members all the time that I put 3 hours of leadership into the game playing Meeting Warrior Online than I do actually playing Mech Warrior Online. Helping with, doing these articles and running the site and taking care of stuff and the alliance and just talking about stuff, organizing, learning rules and all that kind of stuff, and it burnt me out for a while, and all I had time for or will to do was run the unit. I had to focus my time, and I chose to run the unit versus playing the game, and it ended up working out in the long run. But yeah, so you can see a couple of my guys in the chat right now saying Versi barely plays.
And so that brings up another good point. You mentioned choosing to run the unit over choosing to play. And Xander, I know you mentioned you had a fairly bare-bones structure rank system, and I don't know about the rest of you guys, but how do you handle ranks? How do you handle recognizing player skill or player dedication?
For Blackstone Knights, we have a single commanding officer, a single XO, and then below that we really have one rank to designate people that are lance commanders or maybe drop commanders, and then competitive pilots. Below that, we basically have people who are just new to the unit. So we only have maybe 4 or 5 different ranks, if you will. And just to be clear, while we have ranks, we don't have a very sort of hierarchical, dictatorial situation. I guess in a way it's kind of a dictatorial situation, because if you know Sir Trent Howell, who's our CO, he is a dictator. That's shout out to you, Trent. But aside from that, it's pretty flat, and everyone's very involved in the direction the unit's taking. But that's how it works out for us.
What about you guys, Siri?
Our structure is very flat. We don't have any dictator per se, except for Magician sort of has the final say on everything. But we have probably 5 or 6 officers, and the rest are just members. There's no rank beyond that. And rank doesn't really mean anything other than you're taking responsibility for the out-of-game side. Arranging stuff, putting extra effort in for the site or like personnel management. But when it comes to issues, pretty much everyone has an equal say. And that works because, again, we're 15 to 20 people per unit or per division.
Yeah. What about you guys, Versi? What about the 228? I'm just going to go through all of you guys because I'm interested to see.
Go ahead and do them. I've been doing a lot of talking tonight.
All right, Bill, how about you? Do you guys have a command structure or like ranks?
Yeah, ours is actually really interesting. I don't think many people do it. We basically have a council of 9 people, which I am on, and then we have like an unofficial, it's I guess an official designation of officer, and we just give that to people that have been around, that know what they're doing, good players, Essentially, we don't really have like a leadership structure. People aren't organized into units right now. It's just sort of like, we've got 2 comp teams going, join whichever one you want. You want to sign up for another league. If you can get the people to do it, then go for it. We really keep a pretty loose... It's really, to us, it's more about the recruiting phase. Like, we really vet people pretty well, I think. We have not had many people that leave or we've had to kick out, simply because we really vet people and make sure that this is sort of what they're looking for and they're really going to gel with us. And we really haven't had any problems. There's no one that's doing crap that they shouldn't do. We've had a couple minor issues with TKing, but it's like, whatever. But for the most part, it's a pretty flat structure. The council, having 9 of us is odd, but it does allow us to always get stuff done. Like, there's always going to be 2 or 3 of us online at any given time. There's always, at least 5 or 6 that show up for meetings. So it's sort of like having a lot of semi-competitive players, but for your leadership structure, like, you can rotate out when some of you were burned out or, have real-life things going on. And so it works well for us. It's interesting, but yeah, we all have a pretty similar philosophy, and so it works well.
And what about Aces? How does Aces handle unit structure?
Well, it really came down, the obvious story is, Phil Bombadil created it, and then it went down to a few other guys because their responsibilities, Katra has a lot of stuff that he does, out of game for us, like, doing all the posting and whatnot, mostly because he's responsible with it. Uh, I'm kind of like the jester of the whole captains, I guess. And then, then we have really the guys that just kind of focus on the competitive play, trying to figure out what happens and knowing what's happening with the game and how it's developing, trying to see what's going on the other sides with different groups. And then it just really comes down to, for new player, recruiting, it just comes down to a whole democracy within the rest of the members. If the mass of them is happy, and the captains just don't say no, then you're good. And it's worked out pretty decently. I mean, you'll sometimes come into channels and you'll be like, "Who's this guy? I don't know. I don't remember putting him in." But the rest of the group that is there, voted on him. So you're just like, okay, well, let's throw him in a practice and work on some competitive stuff, and we'll see if we can use him for like a league drop or something. And having those practices, constantly rotating people out, has definitely shown us like who's willing to stay, who's willing to work for it, and also who's just willing to be there. Attendance has been pretty high just for all of our practices and all of our league drops. We'll usually have about 20 people just sitting there listening and waiting, just waiting for the drop to end so they know the results. And I think that's an amazing, just like little cheerleader union they have. That really help out the people that are super dedicated with the league and super dedicated with keeping practices going and, making a direction for the rest of the players to kind of follow if they want to go into that semi-competitive to competitive range.
And so, one of the things first he mentions is propaganda and pride, about like something about keeping unit retention and like maintaining your size. Firstly, why did you feel that was so important?
Well, I mean, it kind of falls into two different categories. I originally wrote this for propaganda, just being that. And then I realized that as I was writing it, that I was talking about unit pride. When I finally, got to the meat of things. So I talk about, in the first part of it, I talk about how a unit should, let their players feel like they're doing something. Community warfare, everyone knows the BattleTech kind of stuff. I mean, even if you're not, super BattleTech savvy, you understand the BattleTech. You know that there's the houses, there's famous merc groups, there's famous, heroes, there's, that piloted these hero mechs. The Yenlo Wang, there was a hero for that. The Dragon Slayer was based off of, Arden from the very first book in BattleTech. And it's something that units, and I really believe that units don't do enough for their players. It's kind of, the joke, don't ask what you can do for, your government, ask what the government can do for you kind of thing. It's the unit should be rewarding its players and, recognizing those players and giving them something to strive for. And when you have this pride, and when you have this reputation, and you have all these things, your players will play better. I'm going to kind of want to pass this off to Siri, but Steeljag has a miraculous reputation. And 228, when the moment we started, in my article I talk about goals. We had the goal, we wanted to play Steeljag. And we set out, that was our number one goal. And we ended up getting to play them last round in Merrick, and they slaughtered the hell out of us. But it was awesome, and we loved it. We got upset for 30 minutes, and then all we could talk about was how do we beat them next time. And we were really proud that our unit got to the point where we felt that we can contend with the big names. And we do a lot of stuff internally, and I think a lot of players can, but, Steeljag, they have this reputation, and they have to defend it, so their players will step up or excel further solely on that fact. I mean, they do lots of practices, and they work together constantly, and I'm never going to, say that, it's, solely, one specific thing, but reputation and that pride in themselves is going to go a really long way. And if you can instill that in your unit, I really believe that a unit can do miraculous things and pull off crazy, hilarious, and insane wins when you think that you should have lost.
From here, I kind of want to just open it up to questions from you guys for Versi. I've obviously been poking him, but I'm sure you guys have things to ask about and things to wonder about these articles. Or at least I hope you do.
I'd like to know where you got the data for the overall statistics for open beta, whether or not they're accurate.
That was a thread back in the day, wasn't it?
Didn't PGI release that?
I
Yeah,
think
that
so.
was that was a thing posted by PGI. I actually found that on the forums. I remembered it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, PGI posted that thing." And I was like, because I needed a population-based thing. And I was like, "Oh, they did this thing where they talked about mechs destroyed and C-bills and weapons and stuff." And I was like, "Perfect." And you can do a quick search on the forums for that. PGI was the one that posted all that information.
Just get them to update it so we can see what it's like now.
I'd love to see. They really should run a bi-monthly or a monthly thing with those statistics. I think that'd be really cool.
I was quick gonna look for it, but I don't see it. So
It's on my number one. You can click on the image and it'll pop up.
oh yeah, they had way more than this. They had like mechs killed and just like a bunch of crazy stuff. It was really
Yeah, no, I pulled it from one of the MWO Merc sites.
All right. Well, I mean, do you guys have any other questions? Otherwise, I think we're gonna move on to Magician's team ranking.
Verse, did you have something you wanted me to answer from that?
Yeah, I
Oh,
wanted
that's
you to add on to that. Where you thought the propaganda and pride thing directly affected Steeljag.
I think for us, it was something that came up sort of after we were successful, when we were starting out, and like even now, we're focusing on the goals that you, like, and you covered that aspect in your article as well, how teams need to set goals. And for us, that goal has always been very simple. It's always strive to be the best, and everything else just stems from that. And when that, like, we take pride in our commitment and doing well and staying on top. And there have been guys who like challenged and knocked us down, and we lose matches. It's not exactly a raffle stomp all the time. So,
Just 228.
but like when that happens, we just refocus on that goal and don't let like the pride and hubris get to you.
Yeah, and I actually, in my article, I actually hit on the hubris and where's that fine line where you overstep yourself. And basically, I specifically said the word propaganda because propaganda in general is more focused internally. I mean, it can talk about bad, soldiers eat babies and, things about, the enemy team, but really it's focused internally towards yourselves. And that's why I tried to aim towards that word versus, trash talking or, shit talking or anything like that. But, I mean, like Siri said, they have goals and, it very simple goal. I talk about big goals and little goals, and really that's a little goal that just never stops existing. And, I think we all have that, but I think that, Siri really pointed out that Steeljag puts a real big focus on something so simple, but so important.
We try to keep it classy. If you check our recruitment thread, it's all just cat pictures. So
Also,
Hey, man, there's no better way to
before
get
we
people
move
on the
on, I did see a question in the chat, and I grabbed a hold of it before we suddenly disappeared. It was Stargeezer Tim. He asked, what general advice do you have for those who are or want to be active in the community, but know that they don't have the time or skill set to ever be competitive? I thought we should hit on that before we move on.
I mean, personally, I would say just join a unit. You'll find that there's stuff you can do for a unit that isn't necessarily playing competitively. You can do a bunch of stuff like Versi does. You can do admin work, if nothing else. And that really helps contribute to a team that you can still feel part of if you want to win and stuff like that. But also, joining a unit gets you good practice, and it can get you into like a higher elo bracket or just in better practice in your games. I don't know necessarily what you guys think, but that would be my opinion.
Well, there are definitely advantages to being part of a team, whether you're trying to be competitive or semi-competitive or even as a casual gamer, to get together with a group of people and get some familiarity. It's just going to increase your fun at the game because you're going to do better, right? So I encourage anybody to do it no matter what your ultimate intent is.
All right, well, if there's anything else on this, I want to talk a little bit about Magician's team ranking. Chapow. So this came out 2 weeks ago, and it's been updated since then. And this is a fairly comprehensive ranking of the teams currently in different leagues. I'm assuming all of you have looked at this.
Nope.
Oh, hold on. I'll link it.
I don't think I'd seen the updated one.
Oh yeah, this is the newest one. I'll try and find the older one as well so that we can get a comparison. But, so what do you guys think about this? I think it was really cool for a magician to do this. It's really cool to see what it looks like the competitive scene is shaping out to be, and it's cool to have a leaderboard for units to brag and for units to aim higher. I mean, obviously...
Set goals.
Yeah, Versi obviously just mentioned setting goals, and he mentioned 228's goal with Steeljag. And so, what do you guys think about stuff like this? What do you guys think? I'm going to pick on Homeless Bill, because I haven't heard him talk in a little bit. What do you think about having this kind of leaderboard, and do you think it's good for the competitive scene?
Definitely. I think it's fantastic because, I mean, that's what competitive players want. They want to be the best, you know. They want to be like, yeah, well, you know, I'm one of the best 10% in the game. Like, fuck that. They want to see their name on a leaderboard, and I think that's part of the fun. You know, for anything like this, I really appreciate Magician doing this, frankly. It's like, even though it's like his own metrics and stuff like that, I'm looking at the list, and I think that paints a pretty good picture so far. You know, it's obviously early on, but I definitely think something like this is really nice to have. It's just nice to see the community fill in for the distinct lack of community warfare, because this is the kind of thing that will keep people playing. You know, as you said over and over in your articles, if people get burnt out, if there's nothing to do, if there's nothing to strive for, if their goals don't match up with that of the team, it's just not going to work. So, I applaud it.
And Siri, I'm going to put you on the spot here for just a second, because I don't actually know. Do you know when he started keeping stats?
I believe these stats are from this season of Run Hot or Die, Last Mech Standing, and American Civil War. I don't know if it included Season 1 of Last Mech Standing. I think that might have been too far back.
I think he said in the first one that it was at the point that 12-mans were introduced into MWO, because the difference to the game itself made it anything with 8v8 inconsequential.
That sounds right.
Oh, that's true, because that switched to 12s.
I think, if I might...
Yeah, no, go ahead. I was
This is-
completely
this is
blanking on what I
good.
wanted to say.
It certainly was interesting when we first saw it. I think that in some ways it can also be a little bit misleading, only because it doesn't have the context of some teams put different priority on different leagues and put more emphasis on different leagues. So they practice more for it. They might use different pilots. And this doesn't take into account that. I mean, I certainly appreciate the work. You know, it might be valid to just show people's records in the different leagues in a public forum, right? And not let people make up their own mind, because it can be very different in those different leagues.
It'd be interesting if we could get like a comprehensive match results somewhere. That'd be a good thing to put on Mercstar.
Well, I think that War Room needs to bring Magician on here
I
and
agree.
ask him how he reached these conclusions.
I agree.
Because I think all of the competitive units would love to hear that. And there are some things, you know, when this was first released, 228 was like, wait, who's above us? And, like, you know, like, we were kind of, like, shocked for a second, and we're like, well, we made it to the top 10, we're okay, you know, kind of thing. But, you know, I mean, there's a lot to it, and I'd love to see the math on, you know, how much, you know, if I beat, if 228 beats Steel Jag, how much that affects the score versus, Luna Wolves beating Aces. Because, a lot of these teams, I don't know. Aces has had a undefeated season, which is downright damn amazing. But, you have
What's you gonna say, Mercy?
All right.
No, I know what you're going for. That...
like they haven't fought Steeljack, and I, how do you compare that? Whereas obviously 228 deserves to be below Steeljag because we lost to them. We know that for a fact. Steeljag beats 228. Done. But where some of these numbers not lie, I'd love to be able to see that. How do you rank these teams? And I think that would be really cool to see is what the amount of effort and time that Magician has put on it.
When you actually look at it, it seems pretty fresh and pretty new. A bunch of these cores were in the first Merit campaign. Aces have only competed in that, and we know that some of these did pretty well. And that a lot of them, were in and out, and, a good chunk of them aren't even in the second one. So I feel like it's a good start. It's a really amazing start. And just to actually see who the people that are participating, that leads up to scrimmages, that leads up to practices, that leads up to this, that, and the other, and that creates a whole real community in that. Beyond the top 10, when you're looking at all those other guys that, you've played, you know it. So I think it looks pretty fresh, and I would definitely like to see a lot more of it, just because I think a lot of those guys definitely deserve some respect and attention, just on how well their participation has been, their attendance, their overall personality in general. I feel like a lot of those guys deserve some appreciation, and hopefully throughout time, once we have more, leagues or tournaments or this, that, and the other, we can actually kind of whittle it down and actually get a good infrastructure of, how it works, how many points you get for beating someone 3 above you or this, that, and the other, if it's going to be some kind of algorithm like that.
I'm excited to see how it transforms as the as more matches are played, as we see the continued increase in number of matches played. Proxys is starting now, so that's going to be more teams. I don't know if Magician is planning on including that, but it'll be interesting as more data becomes available to see how this shifts.
And I think Mecha Kaiju hit that on the head. It's still a very new
Yeah, it's very new.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of give to it, saying that SJR up at the top is, or Luna Wolves are better than somebody one off them is perhaps not entirely accurate, but saying that they're better than somebody 8 or 9 ranks away, that's a reasonable assumption. Actually, there are a couple guys in chat with a couple points about it, a couple valid points, and I have a little whole thing about that ready, unless anybody has any other comments, criticisms on it before I launch in.
I think that because I was watching the chat a little bit too, and I think the number one thing that I was seeing is that the thing that we have to keep in mind and was that this is considering the age of MWO and everything is very new, and some of these this doesn't take into account units that sprung up yesterday. It doesn't take into account, I don't know. There's the longer this exists and the longer that Magician does a great job gathering this intel, the more accurate and the more detailed this information will be to give us, a real understanding of the competitive community.
Right. Xander, Bill, any points?
No, again, I think it's great that you've got something to start at and take a look at. I'd like to see more about what the actual calculation is, just out of my own curiosity.
All right, so
they're all
drop
good
the knowledge
teams.
bomb.
All right, I don't have the exact formula on hand. Oh, shit, one sec.
He says as Magician pokes him, here's the formula.
No, just my push the talk was screwing up one of my documents. I don't have the exact formula on hand, but it is an ELO-based system. Everybody was seated at a starting ELO, and Magician just started putting the matches as they happened chronologically, and people with a winning record over time go up to the top. If you beat somebody who was higher than you get more points. It works just like the ELO system for public matchmaking, with slight differences in formula. Obviously, with new people being seeded at the same amount, there's like the first 10 matches are very important to how you start, where you start initially drifting towards. For example, if SJR had beaten SWK in like the very first battle of the season, then SWK's ranking would be low, and they start beating people higher than them, even though they are actually a better team. They would get a bigger jump. So with this being very new, there is still a lot of give to it. And even then, you can only use that analysis so far, just on the nature of it. But what I've seen is people disagree that the ranking is valid because not all teams are on it, and I disagree with that. I think the ranking is valid as long as you keep in mind the intent and the limitations of it. First, you can't compare the ELOs of a North American and European team and take that as a measure of relative skill, because few or none of those teams have played against each other. There's been no opportunity to set that sort of common denominator, and they're just two separate independent environments. The assertion that not all teams are on it and therefore it's not valid, again, I don't agree, and there's sort of two parts to that argument. First, you have teams that aren't active anymore, and second, you have teams that are active but not competing. The best example of the first category are Chaos Legion. Indisputably, they were a powerhouse of the competitive scene. And unfortunately, the summer PPCs just caused their entire team to burn out on the game. And frankly, that was tragic for the state of competition. Without them around, our motivation at SJR, our drive, it suffered. We didn't have a rivalry pushing us to be better, and so our engagement in the game lessened. Yeah, if their absence doesn't really invalidate the ranking now, though. Yes, if they were active, I believe they'd be right at the top of it. But it all hinges on that if. Trying to make comparisons to current teams is unfair. It's like asking who'd win between the 1994 Vancouver Canucks and the 2011 Boston Bruins. It's different eras, both in terms of players and gameplay, and you're just making a completely hypothetical question.
Yeah,
Really
you can't take into account stats that don't exist.
The second category would be teams that are active but not competing. That's a bit trickier. You've got guys that are really good but just newly formed a team. Peef, HBA, Addy, I'm looking at you guys. Related to that, you've got guys who are just setting foot in the competitive scene, complete unknowns, have to fight their way up from the bottom. And you've got guys who think they're awesome but are quote-unquote unwilling to put in the effort or just waiting for CW.
Well, that's the whole thing with time will tell. You know, the new teams will eventually compete, they will enter competitions, and they will win or lose and make their way onto these rankings. And, you know, the phenomenal teams with phenomenal players and phenomenal skill will shoot straight up to the top from what it seems like from what you've given us on the inside of Magician's ELO ranking system.
Right. So for those first two subsets, all I can say is really get out here and play, Peef. Want to see you in these competitions, want to be fighting against you, want to have those good fights.
That's good.
And no matter how good or bad you think you are, it doesn't matter until you're getting out here on the stage and proving yourself. For the guys who are saving their chassis for CW, well, you can't claim to be better if you don't fight on equal terms. You have no idea what CW conflicts will be like anyways, so really you've got nothing to lose by getting out here. And third, you're not really improving that much if you're not setting out to face tough opposition and push your boundaries.
And it's a game. Play to have fun, goddammit.
Right. And once lobbies are
Here.
Once lobbies are in the game, you have no excuse for a lack of effort either. So yeah, ranking's worth something. It's not almighty, it's not worthless. I'm really happy that Magician has found the time to put this together, just for this sort of mathematical perspective it brings. And if people are getting riled up and want to prove something, then all the better.
All right, well, I think we're to the point of maybe moving past the rankings. Is that correct? Any closing
Sounds
words?
good to me.
All right.
Sounds good.
Do you guys need... Bill, you said you needed to take off early. Is that still true?
I can be here about another 10 minutes.
Okay. Do you guys need a break, or are you cool with just keep going?
I'm good to keep going.
Good.
All right. In that case, let's move on to some new content. Basically, UI 2.0, Moon Map, and the 2 new modules. Start with UI 2.0, which I'm pretty excited for.
Can I just say, finally? Like, there's 2 things that I've been waiting for, and it's 2.0 and community warfare. And I just gotta say that once 2.0 comes out, you gave me a snack. It's time for the big shit. Bring me my community warfare. But at least you'll sate me for a month.
You know the thing that I'm the most excited about UI 2.0? I can finally see the difference in the degrees my mech turns. I know you guys can't see this on screen, but on the stream, I've got screenshots up, and it's got like the torso twist and the pitch and all that stuff, and it's finally nice to have something to compare those numbers to, because it's like, oh, it has a 90-degree torso turn, sweet. I have no idea what that looks like in comparison to the other mechs.
I'm just glad I might have a grid where I can pick my mechs from, because I've got 55 mechs and I hate scrolling through them one at a time.
Oh god, Phoenix ruined my mech bay.
My big thing with 2.0 is not so much what they're introducing, but the potential that it provides.
So it's supposed to be a lot more modular, correct? Like they designed this with the ability to add new features as they become necessary,
exactly.
Correct? Okay.
That's my understanding of it.
I'm also excited to
they
be able
introduce
to
a lot.
make my weapon groups in the mech lab.
I think there's one point, I mean, it's kind of a little superfluous, but I feel like there needs to be some kind of indicator when you have your 50-odd mechs to show which one has a module on it, if they're going to do something like that.
Yes, I agree. I also,
yeah.
the other thing I noticed in the video was that they don't, when you're selecting a component on your mech, it doesn't highlight the torso, which isn't a problem for experienced players, because you know which side is the right side and which side is the left side of your mech. But for new people, they might mean to put an AC-20 on their right side, they might accidentally put it on their left side, and it seems like something that's lacking. But I'm excited. I mean, I will be super happy when this is out, along with the Moon Map.
Yeah, I'm more excited about the things locked behind 2.0 than the interface itself. I mean, like, I like the looks of it, but they really haven't changed the interface that much. Like, I was kind of disappointed that we're not getting a Smurfy-like interface. And it's like, I know they can add that, I know they can add all sorts of stuff, it's going to be modular, but really, I'm just looking for all the shit that they're like, yeah, we're ready to turn it on, but we're not going to integrate it into the current UI. I want that so bad.
I think it'll be a good change. Hopefully it'll add some new user friendliness. I guess there's not a ton to be said about this. Any other thoughts? Because I'm excited about the new modules in the Moon Map, personally. Alright, killer. So, the Moon Map. What do you guys think?
I posted my opinion on the Reddit, and I had people disagreeing with me, but I think it's too big. It's just going to reinforce the sniper meta that we currently have, because like the smallest area is that inside bit, and it's still like 400 meters from cover to cover. So you can't even shoot SRMs without charging straight at a guy with no consideration of staying alive.
Not that SRMs do damage right now.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I agree. It does look really big, and granted, in the video he was running around in a Locust, but that's still... There isn't a lot of cover in this middle area. It looks very open. It's got the big hill in the middle, but it'll be interesting to play on or run around on. It seems very different. Like it doesn't seem at all like the other maps.
It looks more like a arena built.
Yeah.
The thing I want to see is I want to see something different. Like,
what do you mean by that?
With Crimson Strait, when it first came out, you couldn't immediately just know how to play it. You know, most games it's basically been, hey, we're going to put a point in the north, a point in the south, and a point kind of near those points, and then 1 point dead in the center. And with Crimson Strait, it's like, yeah, we're kind of going to do that, but not really. And, you know, you could go for a different strat, and while a lot of the competitive units kind of go Yeah, we kind of figured it out. There's always that what happens if I stand on the top of the garage versus being under the garage, and you can kind of alter your strategy for the map based on your team comp. If you're a brawler team, at least in 228 style, we like to be under, in the garage, and because you can then charge the corridor and stuff like that. But being on top obviously tends to be a little bit more sniper-esque.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's okay, we like you to be under the garage too, because then we get to shoot you from above.
Yeah, or you could shoot up. There's a lot of variables, like you can choose to, instead of, charging at the enemy team or running through some tight corridor cave, going and hitting gamma. I just feel that the flow, the classic flow of the maps that we've been introduced is different with that map. While obviously teams are going to figure it out or build strategies for it. That's going to happen with every map. But I think that it was something different, and I want to see something like that. Someone told me a long time ago that Living Legends had a moon map where the temperature changed based on its rotation, and then the sun would strike it, and because it had no atmosphere, it became crazy fucking boiling hot. That would be really cool, and it's different. Mm-hmm. And making it crazy cold, and the snipers can fire their PVCs all goddamn day until the sun hits them would be really hilarious. And it might be something fun.
All of a sudden, at the 5-minute mark, the sun comes up for 5 minutes, and you just can't fucking shoot anything.
Yeah, Lerm boats and PVC boats are absolutely useless. Introducing brawling, it could be cool. And I'll hold off until I actually get to play on the map.
I agree. I think there seems to be a lot of multi-layering to this map too. Like, obviously there's the hill in the middle, but he teased that there's like a bunch of stuff underneath. So it might be a lot more in depth than we think it is, but obviously we won't know until we play on it. Any last thoughts on the map? Because I want to talk about the new modules.
My concern is, I was thrilled with it in the middle until I saw, the bases all the way at the other end, way outside the walls, and I was like, fuck, this is going to be like River City, where it's a big counterclockwise circle to cap. I hope not, but that's my only real problem with the map. Otherwise, I do like that we at least get some underground and some different stuff, but, and I've actually got to head out, so thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
you guys
thanks
have
for
the rest of the good show.
Thanks for showing up, Bill. Thanks for sticking around so long. Do a quick shout-out before you go.
Shout out to, I guess, QQ and Valder is creating that new Corporate Warfare League. You should totally check it out. You only need a lance to sign up. You can even sign up as a lone wolf. There are prizes. You should sign up. See you guys.
Thanks for coming on, Bill. Alright, well then let's move on to the modules, talk about that for a little bit, see if Chad has any questions, and then close out the show. So, the two new modules, which are Hill Climb module and Advanced Gyro module. Hill Climb reduces hill deceleration by 10%, and Advanced Gyro reduces screen shake by 33%. I'm wondering if that screen shake applies to jump sniping as well as to ballistic hits.
Yeah, it's the same question I'm curious about too, because it makes a big difference, whether you take it, if it only does the one or does the other. Obviously, it's going to be valuable with current sniping meta to have it if it's for jump jets, and it's valuable to more mechs if it's also including the ballistic shake from AC-20s, AC-10s.
I think it'll be really, really powerful if it affects jump jets.
I'm gonna have to disagree.
You don't think it'll be powerful?
I don't think it'll be necessary. And I think that for the opportunity cost of that module slot on all of your jumpers, you'd be better off taking like an artillery strike or an airstrike.
Yeah, holy crap, did that get a buff. We talked about that a little bit last time, but it proved in practice that 400% damage increase. Turns out,
wow,
400%'s a lot.
I think we got hit by 10 of those in a recent competitive drop. So, yeah.
I know when we were watching a lot of the SWK Steeljag matches, it was viewed that each team was bringing approximately 3 per team, and I bet you it's probably going to continue to grow until the point that you basically find that perfect level of constant screw you from long distances that you can't touch me at capability.
Small correction. We had the opportunity to drop 3 per team.
Right.
We had more, but the fights were so quick that...
I guarantee it's more like 6 or 7.
Yeah, my point on the jump jet is that even at that first iteration of jump jet shake, when it was completely obnoxious and people were complaining that they were getting motion sick from it,
Gave epileptic seizures and all that shit.
or epileptic seizures, or I don't even know if that's true, but
I don't think so.
all of us thought jump shaking was dead, even at SJR, and then Jaeger and Pi went to the training grounds, were messing around, and were like, guys, it's still perfectly okay. You just have to know where they are ahead of time. And, be good at lining up your shot. And, the real reason for us that we stopped using Highlanders around that time was that the Stalkers, with the 4 PPCs, were just absurdly powerful. And were beating the Highlanders, just in sheer firepower. So, when Stalkers got nerfed and Screen Shake was reduced a bit, it was kind of natural that we went back to the Highlanders, and they're still more than serviceable now. So if people are having problems with Screen Shake now, yeah, they could take the gyro if it ends up affecting, but I think they could also push themselves a little further, a little harder, play a little better, and learn to play without it, and then get a arty strike instead.
Do you think that the movement module will be used at all? I guess the
That's a
only
tough
thing
one
that I can
because-
think of is that 10% is a lot in a light mech. 10% of 170, it's a shitload of speed. So
Yeah, but it's 10% of the deceleration. Which deceleration?
that's true. Yeah, I
Those
think
jump jets.
And it's not the light mechs that tend to have the problem climbing,
It's
because
Atlases.
they're already at such a huge speed. Right, it's the Atlases. And Atlases, frankly, are a dinosaur in a way, too, because in competitive matches, especially with Canyon, you just don't see Atlases being all that viable, I don't think.
talk about my Atlas that way. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean I agree. It's the meta heavily favors jump jet mechs right now. Is there a single mech that doesn't have jump jets that's meta right now?
The Stalker, to a degree.
The Misery,
But
yeah,
it's-
but only the Misery.
It's ironic that the mech that could benefit most from it has the fewest slots to actually put it on.
Right.
Yeah.
You need your seismic and you need your cool shot on that. So
Well, you might
it's
not need
all
your seismic
master
anymore though,
planning.
because your seismic might not do shit. Because this is going to come out after the seismic change.
yep, we'll have to see how well it actually does to see if it's worth anything. But even then, the Stalker's still barely getting in there to challenge the Highlander. That doesn't stop me from loving the hell out of it.
I love Highlanders and Stalkers. But they'll never take away my Atlas. I guess. Do you guys have anything else you want to say about that?
I think we beat the dead horse.
Yeah. I think it's such a trap, but chat, do you have any questions?
While they're doing that, there was a question earlier. I occasionally, as I looked over and pulled stuff, I pulled one, and it's very obvious, but I figured we should at least address it anyway, and that was playing with your buddies, being competitive, how important is the fun of things for you guys? And that was directed at all of us.
Very important. If I practice too much in a week, I get super burned out. And then I'm just like, alright, time to do 4-mans in a fucking commando for a day. Or something. Just not super hardcore stuff. So fun is still really important to me. I don't know about you guys.
Well, my answer would be that, at least for the people in this room, being competitive is part of the fun of the game.
Totally.
So I mean, playing with our buddies and being competitive tend to fall in the same bracket because our buddies are our competitive teams, and being competitive and doing competitive matches is what brings us great enjoyment.
I'd second that. I think competing against other good teams, the better they are, the more fun we're having just trying to improve ourselves and get up to that level too. So it goes hand in hand for us.
We have Gut. Gut is like our jester. He tells terrible jokes and sings to us. We also do fun drops at the end of practice where we just put aside our metamechs and take whatever the hell we want without informing the DC what it is, and it normally turns out terribly.
Have you done 12 locusts yet?
We have not brought 12 locusts
One
because
arty
I
strike.
refused to buy one.
One arty strike. Goodbye.
We actually wanted to do that for science, put everybody together and then arty strike our own team and see if we could all get 11 team kills and a suicide off of one arty.
Make it look like a rock show.
That would actually look awesome.
But no, I think last week we had Blix in a Jagermech with an AC-10, an LBX AC-10, an AC-5, an AC-2, and 2 machine guns. And he out-damaged us during the win, so I think we're all on probation because of that.
The most fun I've had in just like a funsy 12-man was nobody could take the same mech. So you had just like it was a 3-3-3-3, and nobody could take the same chassis. So you could only have like one Highlander or one Jaeger mech. God, that was hilarious because it's just you never see that much variation. I don't know.
No, we've had crazy matches. Like in the past, we took all dragons, gave them flamers, and of course shot them as we ran across the caustic caldera. So we have crazy nights too. But for the most part, it's still the competitive stuff that's most fun.
I agree, especially winning. There's nothing more fun than winning a match. Okay, let's go with. Or first, did you want to say something?
No, I was just letting you know that I sent you a couple of the questions that popped up in chat.
Oh, yay.
Since you are our host.
Why, thank you. Okay, question. Are heavy weapons, AC-20s, AC-10s, UAC-5s, 2 PPCs, more a part of competitive play than medium lasers? My instinct would be yes. I mean, medium lasers are a good backup weapon. Like, you need them if you're, like, having at least one is good on any mech where you have the possibility of running out of ammo. But you don't see any, like, I don't think I've ever seen a laser hunchback in competitive play. Or a laser boat of any kind, for that matter.
Generaf.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And
true.
I would.
To be fair, I wasn't thinking about it because Generefs can't mount AC-20s.
Seeing if you'd save yourself.
That's
But
true. No, thank you.
We do also use the Hunchback 4P from time to time.
Okay.
With the
So you guys
latest
do.
medium buff and the ability for take a standard 275,
Mhm.
it's pretty good.
My personal thing would be that if you go to your profile and you look at your weapon statistics, I would love for you to be able to point at a weapon that has more time played than medium lasers, and that's my answer.
That's a pretty good call.
It's
it is such a
very
versatile
rampant
weapon.
on mechs that we play.
Especially, yeah. I can't believe I forgot about Jenners. I'll resign. Worst host NA. Sorry guys. 3 episodes is good. No. Oh, here's a fun one that I think is kind of interesting. Question: do you think streamers help better the community, or do they make it worse, or does it depend on the streamer? And I'm assuming that they're talking about individual like gameplay streams. Anyone want to take that?
I will, I guess.
Okay,
since
go ahead.
I'm an NGNG streamer, and I did a lot of I did streaming in the beginning and stuff like that. So I guess I can put in my input. Any publicity is good publicity, and even a really bad toxic streamer is needed in the community for streaming purposes. You know, every game that has streamers out there,
You've always got a
there's
villain.
an asshole.
Yep.
And there's the great streamers, there's the educational streamers, there's the, A game pro streamers, your asshole streamers. There's your no name, I'm just doing this because I can streamer. And especially in the case of MWO, I think that any streamer is important to the community because it gets us more publicity, gets the MWO more publicity, and brings people to a game that is good now and will be great later.
I'd have to agree with that. Do you guys?
I
think
don't see how it can hurt.
Yeah.
I think depending upon on those good streamers, I mean, I think it really helps out those new guys, those lone wolves that happen to just find out about the Comstars or NGNG or whatever TeamSpeak you're on. I mean, if you have an open streaming channel, like it really just it makes people feel involved. You know, they don't have to dedicate themselves to a core or a clan or a faction. You know, they're just like, I want to play with other guys. I want, a little bit of publicity. I want someone to call my name out on a Twitch TV. I think it really does some great things for the little guys, and that's the little guys are what's going to keep the game going. We can only do so many tournaments with us going over and over again.
I agree.
I'm
Go
agreeing
ahead,
with
Siri.
those assessments.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to plug Jagger 12's stream, which is
Of
happening.
course.
He's
right
been
now.
streaming a ton lately.
It's his goal, like every night after our practices, to just get on and stream 4-mans for at least like an hour, half or two, and
That's
often
crazy
he goes 4 or 5 hours.
I watch.
So, if you want to see a really good sniper in action using like everything from a light to an assault, then check
Yeah.
out Jagger 12's stream.
Anybody in chat who's never played against Jaeger, he is really fucking good. Playing against him is nearly painful. But yeah, no,
I
I
drink
think
with him.
I think streamers of all kinds help, and it's good to have so many different outlets to go to like watch different players play different style mechs with such different play styles in between assault mechs and light mechs. It's good to have the ability to look at people who are good and be like, well, this is what Jaeger does when he's jump sniping. I should try and imitate that. I think there was one other one. All right, this is
The funny one.
This is a good last question. Would you guys rather fight 100 Atlas-sized locusts or 10 locust-sized atlases?
What are the numbers again?
100 Atlas-sized
Atlas-sized
locusts or 10 locust-sized atlases.
Go with
Question.
the 100 locusts, man.
I want to
I'm going
clarify
for the
this.
100
How fast are the
Atlas-sized
atlases
locusts.
going?
Let's go with all of their armor values and speed are the same.
Oh,
I
no
just want to
question.
see 100 Atlas-sized locusts. So
God, that
that's-
would be
that's what I'm-
doing like 170, just booking it across. Can you imagine that on River City?
And I can say I almost know what that looks like because we played a game. I think it was actually against SJR. It was just for fun, and one of their guys was in a stalker that had a glitch, and it was running at us from across the map on Frozen City at about 170. I'm not even kidding. So it was crazy as we saw this stalker get to our side of Frozen City, right off into the ravine in about 5 seconds from their side of the map.
I just remember when the Locust came out, everybody was running them, and I was like, I'm gonna master Locust first, da 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 da, and I just couldn't do it because there was like that one troll who's like, you know what, this is a perfect day for my streak catapult. I'll bring it back, and he was just racking up kills because there was like 6 or 7 Locusts per team, and nobody had them mastered.
I would want to fight 100 Atlas-sized locusts just to see them all try and get on cap.
Yeah.
Because if they had the same armor value, you could literally just like spray
No, just
lasers.
leg
They
them
would
all.
leg each other.
They would. Oh god, if only they had collisions, that'd just be the greatest.
I just like
think
to see all those
of us.
corpses after the end.
Oh yeah.
Just
the
all piled
smoke.
up as like a pyramid on top of the cap point.
At Choke Point in Mordor.
I think whoever asked that question should be your next guest on War Room.
Versi, who did ask that question?
Oh man, I don't remember. It was really early on.
Come on, chat. Who asked it? Are you still here?
That's the best question.
It was
I've
a
heard in
really
long
good
time.
question, though. That's why I pulled it.
Please tell me that person is still here.
And just imagine the 10 locust-sized atlases with their
There
little
you go.
legs running as
there we
slow
go.
as they run
Stumpy
anyway.
Pershaw.
Stumpy Pershaw. Perfect. You are
That
a
was an awesome
gentleman and a
question.
scholar.
So would the 10 locust-sized atlases have the same armor and
And
weapon
completely
loadouts?
fucked hitboxes? Yes.
But they got those little legs to carry them around. That's not going to work.
Oh shit! I keep forgetting to bring this up. Let's touch on this super quick. I don't think it's not gonna have much of an impact on the competitive play. But DX11 was teased in the same video where he showed the moon map and UI 2.0. Do you guys have any thoughts on DX11?
About time.
Yeah,
Late.
Yeah.
that was gonna be my answer. About time.
Yeah. I think other than that, I mean, it's not really going to affect gameplay that much, other than things will be prettier, should run better.
Yeah, there was that, and then there was one more question. I guess we should probably top it off at that.
Okay, let's. What was the last one you have found?
Why do people not use UAVs more? Are they, aside from current seismic, the best module in the game right now? Or no, they are, aside from current seismic, the best module in the game right now. That was an opinion from the person.
So here's...
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So here's an exact thing that happened to us today, and it's, the advent of all these artillery strikes. Our entire team got all crazy about, hey, everyone needs an artillery strike because we all want to be the one who drops it on the enemy team and kills a mech, which has been happening with a rare amount of more often than we can count. So we all take all these artillery strikes, and after the match we say to ourselves, wouldn't it be nice to have a couple of UAVs so we could actually drop them and have all the Atlas DDCs on the other team not shielding their entire team so we can't target. So I definitely think it's a valuable module. We'll incorporate at least a couple of those. It's super helpful.
I was just going to say, I still see them almost every game, almost every competitive game. I don't think they're used a lot in pug matches for the same reason that I don't think a lot of consumables are used, except for Cool Shot, which is because the utility you gain out of them in a pug match isn't going to really... it's not going to be as effective as it is going to be in a 12-man, where you have 11 teammates who are going to make use of every second of that UAV.
Yeah, I'll add on to that if you can't get a team to not play follow the leader in your normal pug match, what makes you think that a UAV is going to be informative to them? But I know our unit, makes use of them, and when we played Steel Jag, the one match that we actually didn't walk into a horrible steel jaw death trap was because of a UAV at the perfect time.
When seismic gets nerfed, it's more than probable that all the seismics on our light, except maybe one, just for niche purposes, are going to be replaced with a UAV. Our experience with it is that if your enemy is about to push on you and you can put one up in a discrete position, the firing line just becomes so much better when you have shots lined up before they even come around that corner. We've also started using them on our atlases. When the enemy team has atlases, or even if they don't, like your atlases go in first, they have 4 module slots, you just pop that up, and brawling becomes a lot more focused when you're not scanning around for targets.
Yeah, excellent points.
Alright, well, I guess it's time for shoutouts. I'm good with closing it here. We've covered a lot today. Xander, start us off.
Okay.
I mean, unless, is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Is there anything else you feel is relevant?
Not I.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. I was wondering about what the current, um, like what would be the next step. Like, so say community warfare. Like, actually wanted to have this dialogue with some people. Say after community warfare hits, what do we do with these third-party tournaments that are keeping us going? You know, if community warfare is all this and that, like, are these going to end, or are these going to be their own separate brackets to really, like, you know, not risk planets or this, that, and the other?
Well, I know that in War Room 2 they had a lot of the league creators in, and most of them showed interest in still having a league after the fact.
Yeah.
And personally, in my opinion, I think that it will still be necessary because it'll just be altered. It'll evolve. It'll be different. You know, they will make it something unique that MWO doesn't have. I mean, right now, all the leagues are something that MWO doesn't have. And in the future, you know, community warfare will be here, and maybe it'll look like Proxys. Maybe it'll look like, you know, Merrick Civil War. You know, but, you know, so especially something like Run Hot or Die, I don't think community warfare is going to look anything like Run or Hot or Die, and I think Run or Hot or Die will be a competition to last for a very long time due to its, you know, limitless nature as a whole.
The general consensus was that depending on how community warfare is implemented, the leagues will stay around. Proxys is Multi-Talented basically stated that Proxys was a fill-in for community warfare until it comes out, and barring community warfare being a complete flop, he intended to let community warfare take its place. I think Magician stated that Run Hot or Die was probably going to continue because it was a more of a competitive bracket and something that would exist outside of community warfare, whereas community warfare is kind of a, I don't want to say grind, but it's a constant battle that isn't going to have like a clear winner. So having brackets would this led into the esports talk, which we don't need to do again. But yeah, anything else anybody wants to chat about?
Not I.
Closing topics in 3, 2, 1. Watch. All right, Xander, take it away. Plug. I got your name right this time, so people can actually be like, no, don't thank me for doing my job correctly. Yell at me for doing it wrong the first time.
Thanks, because I can tell you there were at least 20 people afterwards who I saw in drops. I'm talking about immediately after, who were saying Xander all with Z's over and over and over, spamming the chat in game.
I'm so sorry.
But
I'm so sorry. I feel so terrible.
I mean, my own team has decided not to use my name, so Xander with a Z forever from here on out. Anyway, if you want to know more about Blackstone Knights, our website's blackstoneknights.org. Thanks again for having me on. It's always a pleasure, a lot of fun. Thanks to the rest of the guys who are on as well. And we're a team that is definitely trying to be in that top competitive area. We've got ways to go, but we've added, like it was mentioned earlier, a lot of superstar pilots to our team. So it's going to be good competition from here on out. And we look forward to scrimming or practicing against everybody else too.
All right, Siri, why don't you take it away?
Oh, I was supposed to use my shoutout to plug Jaeger, but I've already done that.
Fit him in again. Do it.
He's experiencing a lot of technical difficulties right now, but when he is up and running, I definitely recommend people go over and have a look at him. And my shoutout is going to be to Bucklar and the rest of SWK. Thank you for not killing me during that match when I was helping you kill your disconnected guy.
Well done. Alright, Verse, you take it away, man.
I'll do a small shout out to 228, but I think I've plugged my unit enough. And my big shout out is to all the guys that run these leagues, because without their help and dedication to this community, all of us would be experiencing massive burnout, and I probably would have lost more real life money than I care to admit.
I'm posting the links to, as far as I know, every competitive competition in the game currently in chat, so feel free to check those out, guys. Kaiju, take us away.
I'd like to make a shout out to cigarettes. If you can count how many cigarettes I've been chain smoking.
Oh, that's what the YouTube tags are going to be this week.
Yeah.
It's just like,
yeah.
I'm just going to count your cigarettes.
How many times did Versi sip from the bottle, and how many times did Kaiju
Yeah, if anyone saw me at the launch party, I was constantly just talking to people. I'd go play a match, and then run outside, have a cigarette, run back inside, or outside, have a cigarette. It was... so shout out to cigarettes. Shout out to a beer for Phil. Beer.
Yeah, Phil and Darren are in here. Thanks for watching, guys.
Shout out to all the guys that made it out to that launch party. Go Team Tiger. It was fun drinking with Jaeger right before the launch party started, and a couple of the Team Tiger guys. The rest of the Aces guys that are watching or that could watch later. Just awesome league stuff. We're doing well, and everybody's been awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, for sure, man. I will once again plug Homeless Bill of QQ. He had to take off a little bit earlier, but deserves a shout out all the same. I know they're starting up Corporate Warfare, which it sounds like is a cool format for a league. The link is in that block of different links, so feel free to check it out. Hopefully we get some units running up and just some individual lances. Lastly, shout out to just thank you for all of you guys for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I think the show actually, like, I don't think we had technical troubles at the beginning too hard, which is a first. So it's nice to have people being able to come back. Thank you, Xander and Siri. This is your second appearance. That's really cool for me. I'm glad I'm doing a good enough job that you want to come back. But yeah, just shout out to everybody in the community. You guys have been doing a really good job about giving me good information about what to talk about, what to steer away from, stuff like that. Yeah, it's a fun experience. I like doing this, and I will of course be back next week. Any closing remarks? All right, killer. In that case, I'm gonna have a sip of this beer, and I will see you guys next week. I'm gonna start doing a Reddit thread for questions, so that we don't have to do it out of chat every time. And give me a follow on Twitch. Give me a follow on Twitter. Check out the videos on YouTube and Twitch. Alright, thanks guys. I'll catch you later.
Night, guys.
Thanks. Good night.
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 Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.